What is this? What's on that nib? It's a unicorn of the sea. Today I'll be reviewing Narwhal's Voyage, and this model is Shanghai. And stick around because you'll get a chance to win one of these pens from the Narwhal Pen Company. The Voyage Pen Series is a piston-filling fountain pen that Narwhal is building to celebrate different cities around the world. This year's pens are the Shanghai, which is this model, and then also the New York, New Orleans, and Chicago. When Narwhal offered to send me a pen, I picked this one because I liked the blue color. The material is Diamondcast by McKenzie Penworks, and it has real diamond dust in it, which I think is pretty cool. Throughout this video, I'll be showing this pen in different kinds of light because it looks really different and sparkles differently. And yeah, things are going to get kind of watery because this is Narwhal. And if you're like me, the first thing you're going to say is, well, what's a narwhal? Besides being a word that looks hard to pronounce, it's basically a whale. These pictures are from Wikipedia, and it's basically a whale with like a unicorn horn coming out of it. I felt like I missed something in my high school biology class. The owners of Narwhal, Frank Zhang and Samuel Peng, wanted to build a brand that was unique, like a unicorn, and so they chose this kind of unicorn of the sea. Samuel, their designer, wanted to make interesting, unique pens, and they both wanted to offer these pens in interesting materials and particularly piston fillers at an affordable price. Frank offered this pen to me at a kind of lull in my fountain pen life. I was getting kind of tired of chasing sailors. Even all the pretty sparkle on sailors were just getting so outpriced. It's now where you've got to spend somewhere between $300 and $600 to get a sailor. This pen retails at $150, and it was sounding a lot better, and you got some really nice sparkle with it. The Voyage is an interesting concept in that every year they'll offer pens representing different cities. And this year there'll be 500 pens for each city: the New York, New Orleans, Chicago, and Shanghai. Much of their brand does have a nautical theme. Like here is the Nautilus, which has portholes instead of an ink window. And their Key West, which is a cartridge converter pen. As the side of the box says, Narwhal sent me a Voyage Shanghai medium pen. And there's a silver narwhal on the outside of the box. And the inner box just says Narwhal Voyage. It has a magnetic closure, and then when you lift it up, inside are some instructions on how to fill the pen. The end is rounded, and there's a silver ring to separate the body from the piston knob. The color seems to be a mix of blue, gray, green, silver, and maybe a little bit of purple, and there's a very large ink window and a silver cap band. There's a plain, straight silver clip that has a medium amount of springiness. And there's a silver disc at the very top of the cap. You can see me kind of taking the photo here. And continuing with the nautical theme, the cap band has waves and then the word Narwhal written into it. It's a really pretty cap band. And it has a large, very user-friendly ink window. And inside the cap you can see a little ledge there which will butt up against the section to help seal off the nib and keep it nice and wet. The cap comes off in 2 complete turns. And here are some capped size comparisons with the Opus 88, the PenBBS 355, and the TWSBI VAC 700 Iris. They're all about the same length. And here they are uncapped. The Opus 88 is just modified with a vintage nib, PenBBS 355 with a pilot parallel nib, and then the TWSBI VAC 700 Iris. As far as the girth of the section, it's probably closest to the PenBBS 355. It's a stainless steel nib with the design of the narwhal in the center and scroll work along the sides. They're made in a factory in Guangdong, China. I normally initially test my pens with Tsukio, but I forgot to get a new bottle. Even that little divot in the bottom of the bottle wasn't going to work, so I ended up balancing the bottle between a couple of apples to tilt it and then filled the pen. I tested it on Graphilo paper and it felt super smooth. There might have been just a really slight amount of feedback, which I really prefer. I don't like my pens to be glassy smooth. And reverse writing was a thinner line and a little more scratchy, but you could still reverse write if you want to. And the pen had no problem with fast writing. And I also tested it out on Tomoa River paper, and it worked smooth and wonderful. And reverse writing, again, same thing. It's a very thin, scratchier line, and it kept up with the fast writing. Okay, so much for the normal stuff. Then I thought I'd try a little bit dicier ink, and this is Kamogawa from Like Taupe, and it's a beautiful chromo shading inks, and they can sometimes tend to be a little bit fussy, so we'll try this. I changed the ink several times with this pen, and the piston was very smooth and very sturdy, and I had no problems inking up the pen. And the pen handled the ink really well. You can't see a lot of chroma shading on an M nib, and this medium nib is pretty much, well, like a Western medium. And here I just dripped some ink on the paper so we can see the chroma shading later when it dries. And here's the ink dried on Graphilo paper. And we want to challenge the pen yet again, and this one is an ink from Tono & Limbs called Minamo. It's a green ink with gold shimmer. And here I am writing with it on Tomoa River, and again it handled the ink just fine. And here's a close-up with the glitter in the feed. It cleaned out really well. The nib is in a nib unit, and you can screw it out, and that helps with being able to clean it by just running some water into the barrel. It helps if you have one of those little shower thingies on your faucet. I picked Fudafan's brain about this pen since he keeps up with all this new stuff, and he told me that the collar for the nib is also a lot like the collar on the Moon Man. I'll leave his IG in the show notes. So you can just unscrew this nib out of this like Moon Man T1 and screw it right into the narwhal. Paul from the blog Slightly Unnerved liked the narwhal nib so much that he went and bought narwhal nib units and screwed them into his Moon Man pens, and he likes the way they write a lot better. But I can't find anywhere now anybody that sells the narwhal nib units. And I'll leave his blog in the show notes. And continuing on with doing weird stuff to the pen, the next thing I did was take a Yobo number 6 nib and take a Moon Man collar and feed, and then kind of jam the Yobo number 6 nib into that collar. And then screwed that whole unit back into the narwhal. And I can confirm the Moon Man collar does work in the narwhal. And here I am writing with the Yobo number 6 in the Moon Man collar, and it writes smooth just like a normal Yobo number 6 nib, which means you can put any kind of number 6 nib, like maybe a Goulet pen's number 6 nib. I read in a comment somewhere that you can screw in a Blue Dew nib unit into the narwhal. I can't remember where I read it. That's particularly useful for me because I find that to be a good value. It's a nice soft flex for like $35 for their nib unit. So you can just screw one in and it worked just great. This is particularly useful because now then you have all that ink in a piston-filled pen to work your flex. Everyone likes to show this material, and it does look beautiful in full sunlight, but I found where this material really works well is when you have in a little bit of a darker light. The colors are richer, and you can pick out little pinpoints of the diamond dust. And I forgot to mention that this pen does not post. Time for another cool shot. Here's your chance to win a Narwhal Voyage given away by Narwhal Pen Company. All you have to do is follow them and me on Instagram, and I'll post the link in the show notes. And then put a comment under my picture of this pen so that I can use a random comment picker, and in a week I'll announce winners on my Instagram account. And thank you to the Narwhal Pen Company for this pen and for the giveaway. As a totally unscientific aside, after throwing this pen into the water several times, I had opened it up and tested it, and it wasn't even wet on the inside of the cap. And after each time I threw the pen in the water, I would fish it back out with this stainless steel set of tongs. And most of the glamour shots I did of the pen was after I had drug it out of this tank, and it wasn't scratched up or anything. I can't believe I treated it so terribly and it survived. Yeah, tough pen. I liked this pen so much I ended up getting their Nautilus Melandia Blue on Penrealm's website. Those portholes just do it for me. And the winner for the Hokoro pen from my last full-length video is the other Lynn. Please contact me on Instagram.